Thank you so
Hi.
much for joining us today. So excited for it to be an amazing conversation with Leigh, founder of Leigh Jewelry. So it's be a great conversation for anyone who is looking to start a business, looking to own a jewelry line, or looking to design their own jewelry. So real excited to learn more about you, Alexa. And before we get started, I'll quickly just do a little introduction on myself. So my name is Catherine. I'm your host with Yellowbrick. I am a Yellowbrick sneaker school grad. I took the program a few years ago. And now I currently work in marketing at Adidas Canada up here in Toronto. I also do some freelance consulting on the side, and I own an online vintage shop called Human Goods. So now that I introduced myself, Alexa, I would love for you to introduce yourself just by telling us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm Alexa, the founder of Leigh Jewelry, originally from Colorado, and then lived in New York for a lot of years, I should say. Moved to Miami a couple years ago, and I have 3 kids somehow, 2 boys and a girl, and a jewelry line. So I juggle a lot of balls.
It sounds like it. I'm really excited to learn more about that. So why don't you tell us a bit about how you got started with your jewelry line?
Sure. So I've had the line for a long, 10 plus years, but I'll try and give you the Spark Notes version.
Okay.
I've always been really creative and I've always loved jewelry. And so I was, that kid that was beating bracelets and necklaces myself when I was younger, and I kind of threatened to sell them, but then ultimately loved them too much and had to keep them for myself. And so it was when I lost a necklace about 10 years ago that my dad suggested I try and make it myself. And he said it so casually that I was like, oh, sounds easy enough. I started taking apart, you know, old jewelry in my apartment. I think the first sample was made with some old pieces from necklaces and like a bottle cap. I mean, it was not pretty. I quickly realized that the quality was not going to be up to standard. And at the time I was working in Midtown. And so on my lunch break, I started walking to the Diamond District to try and find a jeweler to help me execute on this vision. I also draw. So I was able to sketch it out in a lot of detail. And I don't remember how I met the first jeweler that I worked with, but one kind of always led me to another. I think he made my first samples and then introduced me to someone else. And then as the collection grew, from one necklace to there were 7 necklaces and then bracelets and anklets, like one person always kind of led me down the road to another person, which was really interesting process. And I was very lucky that, people were always happy to help in whatever way they could. After starting to sell it to some friends and family, and kind of through word of mouth, I decided to launch a website. And around the same time, started working for a company called Necessary Clothing, who was launching their website, and then subsequently Van Deer, who was launching their website. And I kind of got this e-commerce business degree, I would say, by working in those companies. There were small companies, and at least at the time, I got to wear a lot of hats and kind of was like a jack of all trades, and ultimately applied what I learned there for myself. So
Wow.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it. And you mentioned that you can draw. So you took your sketches to various manufacturers to find one to work with. Can you tell us a little bit about your creative process and what inspires your designs?
Sure. I wish I was one of those people that could say like, oh, I'm inspired by the trees in Miami and that dictated the collection. I think that it's more my life that's sort of inspired it. So originally I was in fine jewelry, had kids, and started quickly stripping off my delicate necklaces and delicate bracelets and delicate earrings because my baby would be like pulling on them or breaking the chain, where I was worried about the chain breaking. So I started to get into different materials I really wanted them to be durable. I really wanted to be able to wear them you know, day to night, sleep in them, for them to be comfortable, to not have to worry about them breaking, to not have to take them off for bath time, or to take them off for, you know, when you're like, my busy boys that want to wrestle, you know, didn't want to have to worry about what I was wearing hurting them or breaking. So it's sort of just been my life that's inspired and changed the collection over time into what it is now, and continuing to sort of evolve.
Right. Definitely sounds like it's like evolved around your lifestyle. It seems like versatility is really key for you. So what are some of the other important factors that went into that you considered when developing your business?
I also love the sentimental value of jewelry. So that's something that I think why I gravitated towards it. It's different than you know, a sweater that you get. Like for me, jewelry can be passed down. It marks special times in your life. Often there's symbolic meaning behind jewelry. So I always loved, I was a sucker for if a necklace meant like serenity or protection. I was like, well, I have to have it. I have to have that then. I love that about them. The necklace that I originally lost was like a good luck piece for me. And I like that jewelry kind of carries that meaning. So one of the things that I wanted to include in the line was that element. So we have a bunch of charms. You can personalize the pieces. They all have symbolic meaning to me, but I find that they have symbolic, either similar or different for my customer base too. You know, a butterfly might represent something to me that maybe is a little bit different than what it represents to you. But I loved that element of it, and I wanted to make sure I kept that through the line.
Sentimental value when it comes to jewelry is definitely something that resonates with me as well. I have pieces that have been given to me like by my grandparents, by my mother, and like that sentimentality just means so much to me. So I can definitely relate to that. So your jewelry is definitely a favorite of different fashionistas, influencers, and celebrities, such as Miranda Kerr. So how did you first start getting noticed by some of these personalities? And what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get some more attention in the jewelry world? I think you're frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Alexa? Hello? I can't hear you. Can anyone hear in the chat? You can hear her. Okay. Okay, so looks like we're having some technical difficulties, but if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, and we'll definitely get to them. So apologies for the delay, but if you have any questions, any comments, now would be a great time to think about them, and then we can get right back to it. Okay, unfortunately Zoom crashed. As you can imagine, that happens a lot these days. So yes, they're just looking to get it back up now. I'm just chatting with them right now. So we're going to take a very quick break, and then we'll come back once we're back online.
Are we back?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, everyone.
All good. It happens way too often these days.
We're recording, and I'm gonna just check our sound. Make sure that we're okay.
We're back.
And we're back. Okay, so you cut off right as I'd asked that question about what advice would you have for someone looking to get some more attention in the jewelry world, such as from influencers, some celebrities and stylists and such.
Right. It's a tough call because it's changed a lot over the years. When I first started, influencers were like just becoming a thing. It was really bloggers.
Right.
I don't even think Instagram had started yet. And so bloggers were willing to take jewelry like as a gift, and now it's a whole different world. And you know, there's different, I think it's more of a business, and they require maintenance and things like that. But I do think Instagram is a great way to get any brand out there, or social media in general. I haven't figured out the TikTok thing yet, but I would imagine that's an outlet also. But yeah, I think one of the first places people go to check out a brand is your social media. So after they've learned about it, if they've seen it somewhere, they're going to go check out your page. Starting to grow that audience in whatever way you can. I always say, play to your strengths. So that's kind of like a mantra that I go back to, and being like true to who you are, being true to what your brand is, and just kind of keep going, keep posting. I don't think it hurts to DM people and see if they'll respond. If you have a great product, a lot of people are willing to try it out. So they'll send it to me. I think it depends, obviously, if you can afford to do that and how much your product is, and if that actually makes sense for your business. But a lot of people, I think, are really willing to help. And I got really lucky that I had a friend that was an influencer, and she posted me a bunch. I think just also any kind of UGC goes a long way. So as you start to get your product out there, encouraging your customers to post your product as well goes a really long way. They don't have to have 1 million followers. They can have 100 followers. They can have 500 followers, but that will then translate to a new customer, and then those customers translate to new customers. So
exactly.
Start small.
Right. I think it's so important to remember that each customer, regardless of how large their following might be, can lead to more potential customers, and by just strictly by word of mouth. So definitely appreciate that you appreciate that.
My favorite. I love seeing my customers post my stuff. It's my favorite. It is so cool when people share. Somebody posted this morning that like my balls are the best balls, and I was like, I love that. You're the best.
I saw a comment that you received the other day that was like, my balls haven't tarnished after all these years. Like, what are these? I'm sure that's such an amazing feeling. Yeah,
it's great. I was silly a few years ago and like forgot that people, I don't think you can get away with the same one now, but I started a hashtag of show me your balls. And
how did that go?
And it was awesome.
Love that. That's so fun. And you had mentioned that you originally had like an influencer friend who had started to post some of your content, which helped bring a bit of traction. So in the theme of collaborations, they've definitely been a great disruptor when it comes to the fashion industry. So who would be your dream collaborator?
Oh, this is so fun. What a good question. Because I've actually been thinking a lot about this lately too.
Oh yeah.
My mind lately has been on some jewelry products, but I've also been sort of cooking up some other ideas as well.
Ooh.
And trying to figure out who would be a good partner. I have a lot, but the first person that comes to mind, because I love her stuff and I wear it a ton, and I recently listened to a podcast on her and she sounded awesome, was Nilly Lowton. So Nilly, if you're listening, call me. Should work together. I have an idea.
Let's be recorded so we can post it and tag her after.
Okay.
That sounds great. You said that you had some ideas cooking up. Can you give us any teasers or anything that you can, any little teasers you could give us?
No, but they'll be, I think, stay tuned. It's all
right. We'll stay tuned
here, hopefully. So yeah, some fun ideas. Yeah.
We'll stay tuned for sure. So I'd love to ask about your style. How would you categorize your style?
That is a great question. I think I'm comfort first always. And I try to for there to be some style in that, but I really just like wear what I feel comfortable in. And my mom, I think, used to think that I like dressed like, just like, where do you get these? Like, they're it's all too big.
Literally the same with my mom.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, she doesn't get it. Doesn't get
Yeah.
it.
I'm like, I'm comfortable, mom. Just let me do it, But
Yeah.
I think actually my customers have started to, or followers or whatever, have started to be into it and like it. I think they appreciate. I think there's an audience out there that wants to be comfortable. We're not all in heels every day, and I wear things a million times. I'm definitely an outfit repeater, an item repeater. I have my like favorite things that I just can't help it.
Yeah, I totally feel you there. And I on the idea of like wearing cozy clothes, I think the pandemic, if it showed us anything, like being comfortable and maybe just adding a couple pieces to elevate your look is definitely the way to go for most people, at least these days. So definitely feel you there.
I think that's why I like jewelry too, is because I'm usually like white t-shirt and jeans, and I keep it kind of simple. So the only way to sort of make it more interesting and spice up the look is with jewelry, whether you're wearing a million necklaces or one big chunky necklace or earrings. Like that's always kind of been where I've gone a little bit more creative and played a bit more.
And do you have any advice when it comes to like styling those pieces and when it comes to layering your pieces? I notice you have a lot of like stackables and layer pieces for layering on your site. So do you have any advice there?
Yeah, people ask like, oh, what looks best together? And I think the idea behind it is that it all looks good together. Like you can't go wrong. Don't overthink it. If you are a person that likes a little bit more delicate, simple, then just go with the smaller pieces, and you can even stack those. Just go with like the smaller sizes, more delicate items. If you're somebody that's like looking for a little bit more of a statement, you can do a whole sleeve or go with like some of the bigger chunkier items, but I've really never seen anybody do it wrong. I tend to say if you're going to do the necklaces, like try and do different lengths instead of all the same length, because that would get probably tangled, but don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it, and the laid back, I think, is the moral of the story. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you had mentioned that you are a mom of 3. Congratulations on being such a successful entrepreneur and being able to find that balance. Like that's so impressive and so admirable, and absolutely love to see it. So how are you able to find that balance as an entrepreneur and a mom of 3?
I was joking with my sister about this question because I don't know that there is a balance, and we were saying that I'm not good at all of them. I'm like a mediocre wife, and like I'm a bad worker, and but I'm a good mom. I think that there's different times in my life where the scale gets tipped one way or the other, either more to the work side or more to the family side. There's never like a perfect balance. Besides my mantra being play to your strengths, I just say I'm doing the best I can, and that's like across with work and with motherhood and just life in general. Like I'm doing the best I can. Go easy on yourself. And it's hard to find the time to do everything, but somehow it all gets done. I would say hire people if you can. Like if you can afford to have a support system for your company, find people and a team that can help support you. It's really hard to do it by yourself. And so even if you can find any kind of help, it's hard to be everywhere all at the same time doing everything.
Asking for help is definitely key when you need it. So definitely appreciate that you have that mentality. And on the idea of like overcoming challenges, what are some of the challenges that you faced in the early days when you started your business that you could share with our listeners who are probably going through maybe some of those similar struggles?
Yeah. Yeah, there were always different, I try to look at challenges as opportunities, and they've always helped me grow and help the business grow. There were certainly times when, especially like right after I had kids, I wasn't designing as much, and manufacturers that I was working with didn't want to work with me anymore because I wasn't reaching the minimums that, you know, they wanted me. And I'd be like, please, I promise it's coming, business is coming. But there's been plenty of times I got turned away, turned down. And it was actually really, you know, they say whatever, one closed door opens another, some right saying, or opens a window. It was a manufacturer that didn't want to produce my fine jewelry anymore, because I wasn't reaching those minimums. And that sort of forced me into thinking about a different collection and different designs, and ultimately, you know, at the same time led to this whole to this more accessible and affordable price point. And you know, even though at the time it seemed like business was closing and ending, it really led me down a totally different path that worked out. So
when one door closes, another door opens. That literally cannot be understated. And on the idea of doors and doors opening, love to learn how you first got started with your first major retailer.
Ooh. Good question. Trying to think who that might be. That was also networking and just trying to find connections to people that had stores. I feel like it's really hard these days for retailers to respond to just like a cold email or a cold call. Unfortunately, you know, they probably get thousands of them a day, and so it's hard to weed through. I started just asking friends and friends of friends, and tried to find people that knew people that had a store, or, you know, maybe worked for, let's say, like Shop Bop or Love Shack Fancy, and really through, you know, kind of that 6th degree of separation, trying to find people that had a contact there, so it wasn't just a random person emailing or calling.
And networking can definitely be intimidating to some people, especially some of the students who might be listening who don't really have vast networks of their own yet. So what advice would you give to people who want to get started with networking but are a little bit introverted?
Oh my gosh, I totally relate with the introverted part. Yeah, it's super hard. Sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone. Like, I don't really want to be doing this. I have to, like, you have to do things that are out of your comfort zone to grow your business and to make yourself, and to grow yourself too. So I understand that not having the network is really tricky. Anything that you can do to set yourself apart, if it is in an email or in a phone call, I would think about it from that perspective too. If there's a way to include a picture of your product or explain your product in a different way so that you can grab a little bit of attention.
That's amazing. And we have time for one more question. I'd like to go back to Instagram. You mentioned that it can be such a powerful marketing tool for you. And you have such an impressive Instagram profile with really high engagement. So congrats on that, because I know that's a huge struggle for many brands. But how do you define your aesthetic, and what advice do you have to make an Instagram page exciting as someone is just getting started?
I always just try and be like true to myself and what I like. Sometimes I post things that it's not necessarily for anybody else. I care about how my grid looks, and so I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore, but I like it to look a certain way. So I post things that I'm personally gonna resonate with, or a quote that I really like that speaks true to me at the time. Just like being real, not too edited, not too forced, you know, not trying to copy anybody else, just posting for what you feel like maybe personally resonates with you, and then there's usually an audience out there that it resonates with also.
It definitely seems like a true reflection of yourself, and I think that's really refreshing when there are so many heavily edited Instagram pages and fake followers and all that. So congratulations on building such an authentic and well-rounded page and brand overall. It's been so great speaking to you today. And to anyone listening, I'd love if you have any last words that you'd love to end on, or any final pieces of advice that you'd like to give to our listeners.
That's a good question. No, I would say, don't quit on a bad day. It's been a journey, and there's been plenty of times that I thought I was gonna close the business and not do it anymore, but it was usually just a bad day. Sales maybe weren't coming in, and that's a rule that I think everyone should follow. Don't quit on a bad day.
Don't quit on a bad day. That's a great note to end on today. So Alexa, it was so nice to meet you, and really excited to continue to stay in touch with your brand and just follow along with your amazing entrepreneurship journey. So thank you so much for your time today, and thank you everyone for listening in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.